your interest as a group. And so you are only going to be able to open more doors for the same people, for those people that you feel that they are against your interest, to be able to come in and be able to have a higher or upper hand over your affairs, even within your own enclave. And so, of course, this kind of approach is counterproductive and clearly not in anybody's interest. And so, but then, even if IPOB had continued to preach the no election message, the election would have still held. In fact, the issue is that a lot of people are living in fear. People are afraid of their lives. People don't want to be, caught in the web of this superiority contest between the Nigerian security forces and some of these people, or whoever they are, whether IPOB, because IPOB can say they are not the ones doing this. They're not the ones who are going out to enforce, criminally enforce or violently enforce sit-at-home, as it were. But then, whether it's neither here nor there, but then in any case, the idea of no election is not in anybody's interest. But even if they had insisted on that, even on the eve of the election, or even on the election day, the election would have still held. And I tell you, even if we have as low as 10,000 people turn up, they will still determine the winner of the election. And so that's just about a summary of my thought on this. And also then I think I've mentioned that before, the problem of participation, because we have had that issue before. What happened this time around is that because of the insecurity and the pressure and the fear, a lot of people voluntarily stayed out of the process. And so I think so far in recent times, this is one of the elections that we've had the lowest voter turnout in recent times in Anambra State.
Okay, just one more question on the IPOB before I go back to Dr. Mefor. Now, one of the mantras of the IPOB was no referendum, no election. Now they allow the election to hold, or they've retracted your sit-at-home order. Don't you think it's going to raise the question of their credibility and how able they are to enforce their agitations?
Well, I don't think the question of credibility arises. I think it's a question of strategy. Because when you try to make social change, because what IPOB is seeking is political, and you cannot attain political change. You cannot bring about political rejigging. You cannot turn the system around politically without politics. So you cannot cause political change without politics. And so essentially, therefore, it would appear that if IPOB has been able to sit back and assess the success of its strategies, and therefore rethink within itself that it needs to look for some other, maybe perhaps better ways to engage, that doesn't call its credibility to question. But then as a group, it's important that they look back all the time, or from time to time, to assess the essence of some of the means it uses as a tool to achieving its aim. So there is no question of credibility as far as IPOB is concerned. In fact, I would think that their stance against the sit-at-home, which of course many have already said so much about how counterproductive it is and how self killing it is. But then it is left for IPOB to redefine its relevance to the existence and to the political importance of the Igbo nation within the Nigerian context. But then the referendum issue is also political. So these things are entangled, and I believe you cannot seek political solution, and you cannot indeed solve political problem without looking, well, without going the route of political solutions. So these are the realities on ground. And I mean, if you have to think of solving a political problem, you have to think through political means.
All right, let's listen to Dr. Mefor. Dr. Mefor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Now, we all know about the situation with the bimodal voters accreditation system, that's BVAS, and how it's hindered the electoral process. In your opinion, how could INEC have prevented this malfunction, and what can they do going forward?
I think going by comparative analysis between what happened on the 6th of November, when you had the general elections, and then the supplementary election that held in Ihiala, the deployment of beavers showed remarkable returns in terms of differential returns, in terms of deliveries. When you check what happened in Ihiala and what happened on the 6th across the state, the result we got from Ihiala was quite impressive. It showed that the beavers machines, a lot better, generally well. But on this elections, almost conclusively held on the 6th, we had problems with the beavers. And NEC didn't have the time to check out the machines against the, what you may call the Anambra political environment, to even know where it should be deployed, what kind of a network should be required. Two things, can be looked into here. One, if you check internet penetration in Anambra State, it may be quite high, perhaps up to 80%, if not 100%. But the GSM providers are not equally strong across the state. In some parts of Anambra State, it is MTN that is so strong. If you go to some places, it is Airtel, is Glo in other places. What this means is that the beavers machines as configured, ought to have taken some of these sensibilities into consideration. My little research into the workings of the beavers voting machines showed that it would work optimally if deployed to where you have a 4G network. Anambra network is not 4G, as far as I know. I think we are still on 3G in Anambra State, 4G in some places, but certainly not all of Anambra State, has a 4G coverage. If they had time to do a kind of a mock trial of the functionality of beavers in Anambra, they would have been able to deliver a better result. And the inability of INEC to also do that can be understood in the context of the problems we had in the build-up to the election itself. Because if you recall, the threats that we have even reviewed here, put that fear in people to the point that even many ad hoc staff that were presumably already trained in the use of all these things, a lot of them pulled out. And that accounts for the reason why election couldn't even hold in Ihiala. And then in one or two other words, I recall a place like Uke in Idemili North. I don't think election held there because INEC couldn't mobilize effectively to that place. And I also know that the same problem happened here and there. And the point I'm trying to make is that INEC didn't have enough time, enough conducive environment to be able to do a test run. And my position, can be seen in the fact that they were able to do better in Ihiala, gaining from the experience they gained from the election that held on the 6th. And of course, they were able to know what could work better in Ihiala and deployed accordingly. And again, the inability of the Beavers voting machine to really deliver optimally, seriously accounts for what we now call a voter apathy. I don't want to believe that Anambra November 6th governorship election witnessed a voter apathy. I don't think so. I think enough people came out, but got disenfranchised because of the Beavers voting machine that took a long time to accredit people. And so many people were frustrated out of the process. Some who were patient enough even waited and still could not get accredited. And many INEC officials didn't want to deviate from the electronic voting system. So they did not allow manual accreditation and voting. So what that means is that those who could not be electronically captured, and validated could not vote. This is very fundamental. It means that a lot of people were turned back because they could not be captured and therefore could not vote. And this also, it joins other factors like late deployment. INEC deployed late in so many places. INEC deployed late in so many places, again, because of all these logistic problems. The fact that, so many of INEC ad hoc staff are not too, confident even up till now about some of this. So of course, they are not a kind of fixed manpower that come at the beck and call of INEC. So they are not permanent. They're ad hoc. It means you recruit them in every given election cycle, and they follow and flow with what obtains within that election cycle. And Anambra particularly presented very peculiar problems. The fear element was so much a big factor, to the point that the ad hoc staff were quite reluctant because they believed they were in harm's way. And you don't blame them. Many pulled back, and even those who agreed to move on only joined and they proceeded reluctantly. So you can see that deployment of INEC to polling booths and polling units, it could be seen in the context of the build-up where so many extraneous factors could not allow INEC to do their job diligently and in a conducive atmosphere where they are in control, fully in control. They are workers working without fear of favor and so on and so forth. So if you get my drift, if you get where I am coming from, you will see that Beavers didn't work perfectly well, but there are reasons for it. And I think that moving forward, that INEC needs to really go around the country and understand the issues I tried to implicate earlier. I talked about the prevalent G network. I talked about the service providers, the GSM service providers, those that are effective and where they are effective, so that reconfiguring the Beavers machines would be done in a way as to ensure optimal performance. If you don't do this, you may be replicating what happened in Anambra. But again, we also have to bear in mind that certain factors and circumstances did not allow Anambra to function normally. And because Anambra didn't function normally, it should not be used as a yardstick to validate the workability and or otherwise of the Beavers machine. Because I think that giving test runs and other factors put in place that beavers should be able to work. That's what I believe. So we shouldn't recommend that we do away with it. We must go the whole hog in trying to implement the electronic voting system, both in collation of both in voting and collation of results. It's very, very fundamental. And I thank God that the National Assembly has also been able to harmonize. The two chambers of the National Assembly have been able to harmonize their position, and they are transmitting to the president any moment from now to sign into law electronic voting system in Nigeria. So we have to flow with it.
Okay, Mr. Onyekwelu, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, still on the beavers problem. Now, in 2017, we saw the card readers as the card readers also gave problem. In 2019, we saw a similar problem with the card readers. Now we are seeing a different card readers as the beavers, and it's still giving problem. Do you think INEC is ready to embrace technology and electronic method of voting and collation and voting and collation? Is INEC ready for this new era?
Yes, well, if I had to be very direct with my answers, my first impression would be that INEC is ready, for electronic voting system. But then we do need to put into proper consideration the fact that electronic the electoral system and even the democracy as a whole, requires time. It takes time. It's not something that is just walking and everything is already set for you to, to experiment with. So it's something that takes a lot of time and also a lot of, requires a lot of innovation and also investment and practical, experiments, so that we'll be sure what we are dealing with or what we are testing. And now in the election in Anambra State here, I voted myself. But I observed that in my own polling unit, a number of people, were not accredited. The machine didn't accredit them to vote, so they didn't vote. Like Dr. Mefor already observed. So many people were actually disenfranchised. And so, but that is actually different from voter apathy. Voter apathy, I have been part of the election process in Anambra here. And I can tell you, in most polling units where you have as much as 20-25% participation, that is luxury. That is luxury, because I have experienced, firsthand situations where voters in a polling unit where you have maybe about 200, 250 registered voters, and you are having about 30, 35 or less voters coming to vote. So it's a problem that has been recurring. And so, but in this instance, it almost it's more than doubled because of the fear of unknown, which was heightened by the security situation in Anambra and of course in the southeast. And so, but then talking about the beavers and the INEC readiness, I think a lot of studies has to be in place, because you cannot be experimenting with a stupendous or humongous amount of money, because I am made to understand that for INEC to be able to procure some of these things, a lot of billions have been expended on them, and so I don't think it's wise, for us to spend our scarce resources trying to experiment on things that are still going to put question marks on the credibility of our electoral processes. And so that's one. Then secondly, I think the beavers can actually work. But then what I suspect is that really INEC need to rethink its ad hoc recruitment process. There are countries, I'm aware, there are countries that retain their election workers, so they don't have to go all out recruiting new people to come and then get trained, only for them to be discarded or maybe re-employed through the ad hoc process to be part of the next election. So what I'm saying in essence is, I think INEC should rethink its process of recruitment, because that will be a major, plus in addressing some of these issues. I can tell you, one of the major challenges INEC is having with this, with introducing electronic system or technology into our voting and democracy, is that most of the people who are handling some of these machines lack fundamental competence to handle some of these machines. So they do not even understand how these things work. In my experience, I have had to, intervene in some centers, because I took my time to go about to observe how smoothly the election was going in so many other wards and polling units, on the 6th of November. And so I saw firsthand some of these things. And so you see a situation where some ad hoc staff do not even understand how the machines are supposed to work. And then you see situations where some are confused as to the process, whether you are going to have to go to the APO2 and get your name ticked on the paper before you go to the beavers to be able to have your PVC scanned. So this confusion and of course very open show of incompetence leaves a lot of doubt in the minds of the voters, of which they start to get agitated and raise doubt as to if this process, as to if they can trust this process, to produce the result that they aspire for it to produce. And so these are part of the process of building confidence in the voters, because you cannot build confidence in the voters when the process, is questionable or is brought to question by the virtue of the fact that you have not made adequate provision for these things to work seamlessly. And so that is part of the lessons on the part of on INEC side. But then on the voter side, you see a situation, the voters themselves are not all cooperating with the process. I see people coming to vote with their ordinary voters card, that was laminated. They don't have PVC. So you see, there are so many people who still do not know what a PVC is. They still do not understand that without the PVC, they cannot vote. So I think there is a lot of either miseducation or no education at all as to how the people are supposed to, to behave, to engage their democracy. And so this amounts to disempowerment of our people in our democracy. And so people do not know how to act, they do not know how to engage, and they do not know how, to make their input. And so it becomes, chaotic. That's why you go to a lot of polling units, you see all sorts of, people are angry, and people are ready to fight because of some of these issues that I'm talking about here. And so moving forward, we expect to see an INEC that is more prepared, that is detailed, that is professional, in its outlook in terms of the people that it has engaged or it is engaging to administer the process. It's like implementing the INEC mandate. So the ad hoc staff system is, to my mind, not as it is now, not sufficient to be able to administer the mandate of INEC, because the mandate is sacrosanct and it is sacred, if you like, because it in a way represents the bedrock of our democracy, and it should be pursued with every seriousness. And as while we are also pushing for legalistic reforms, we expect that some of these things, behaviors and attitudes, some of these things, that are not captured within the legal framework, should be, worked on. as part of the efforts towards building an all-inclusive system. Then for our people, I think a lot of people have lost confidence in the system. They believe that whoever they go to vote, at the end of the day, they're going to have a different result. I think this election has been able to, to say something, to make a very bold statement, like so many other elections. The truth of the matter is that votes actually do count, but then you cannot impose it on people. People themselves need to, develop the confidence that actually their votes do count. And so that is on the part of voter parties, because I think more than anything else, more than perhaps making a law to criminalize voter party, which is the case in some countries, I think Australia and some other countries. Now, I think that when people, come to the realization that their votes, actually do count, on their own, they will decide to participate and be part of the process.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Onyekwelu. I know you have a lot to say, but we are time bound, so we have to move on to other questions. But remember, you can join this conversation simply by raising up your digital hand and try to accommodate as much questions and comments as possible. Now, speaking on the low voter turnout, I'm talking to you, Mr. Onyekwelu. There are reports that those opposed to the Igbo presidency are pointing to the low voter turnout across Igbo land in general as being a disadvantage to the quest for an Igbo president. Do you think that the low voter turnout in Anambra 2021 election is a hindrance to the quest for any Anambra man seeking to be president in 2023?
No, because when we are looking at it, we don't have to model up some of these things because they appear hypothetical. Now, when we are looking at who becomes the candidate, first of all, we have to talk about becoming a candidate. For you to be able to stand as a presidential candidate, you have to go and be a member of a political party if you are not already. But if you're a member of a political party already, you have to get engaged in the politics, in the process of who becomes the candidate of your party. So that is where it starts. That's why I said in the beginning that the Anambra 2021 process started before the primaries. And then we had the primaries. From there, we moved all the way through the general elections. And so when we're talking about the voter turnout, we're just talking about just one of the processes of the elections. And so the first thing for anybody who is interested, if, for instance, the former governor of Anambra State is interested in becoming the president of Nigeria under his platform, the PDP, he should be bold and courageous to go meet his party people and tell them that he is interested in becoming the president of Nigeria and that he would like to contest on the platform of PDP. So that is why it starts. And so if you are able to go through the process of this very, very, very high level, high wired politicking, then you emerge successfully at the end of the day. That is when you stand a chance to be voted. So the question of low voter turnout is inconsequential, absolutely of no consequence at all whatsoever, as far as the 2023 presidency is concerned. Yes.
Dr. Mefor?
Yes,
Dr. Mefor, yeah, do you agree with Mr. Onyekwelu's position that the low voter turnout across Igbo land is inconsequential to a person of Igbo descent contesting for presidency in 2023?
Well, I think the problem remains that certain things have not been put in their right perspective. In northern Nigeria alone, you have more than 10 million Igbos living here, up north. In western Nigeria, you have nothing less than 5 million Igbos living there. On the whole, you have up to 50% of Ndi Igbo living outside the Southeast. So the number of registered voters in the Southeast should not be much of concern. What should be of greater interest to whoever is assessing the Igbos in terms of what they will be bringing to the table should be our voting pattern and our ability to really mobilize maximally if we believe that something is at stake. In the Southeast, as of 2015, we had about 8 million voters registered in the Southeast. And in the 2015 presidential election also, 2 to 3 million of them voted. It compared fairly well with the total number of voters that turned out in the Southwest. The records are there. The Southwest may be slightly higher, but again, I tell you, even the votes registered in the Southwest itself, you know, the Southeasterners there account for a very significant number. This said, I do not think that somebody will be looking at the number of Ndi Igbo that are registered in the Southeast as the undoing factor for not allowing the Igbo man to the presidential flag of either of the two major political parties. I see that as an emotional blackmail.
Dr. Mefor? Dr. Mefor, are you there? I think we may have lost Dr. Mefor. Let us, okay.
You were saying something?
No, please go ahead. You froze up for a second.
Okay.
Dr. Mefor? Okay, I think his network may...
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, but it seems your network is giving some kind of interference. Please go ahead.
The point I'm making is that Igbos vote en bloc, and whoever offers the Southeast the presidential ticket in the two major political parties can be sure of block vote. That's the point I'm making. And it is something we are good at, and we can deliver that again. I have had that argument that many of us don't turn out during elections and stuff. Yes, apathy is quite high in the Southeast generally, especially in a place like Anambra. I have no recollection of when Anambra voter turnout was ever more than 25%. So that's why I'm not even surprised with what happened on the 6th of November, because it has always been the trend. So comparatively, I think that the turnout during the last election was not bad at all. It compared fairly well with what has often happened. And we can't effectively and objectively submit whether or not what took place was voter apathy, because the beavers machines didn't quite work quite well. So nobody can be so sure of what actually happened. As for the presidential election 2023, we are campaigning for it, and whoever thinks we don't have enough votes to give his party, no problem. Let them choose who they want. Igbos will sit down and vote who they want, and they will see what we can bring to the table. If you check the presidential election of Goodluck Jonathan 2011, Igbos delivered 5 million votes. I hope you know that. 5 million votes. That's what we've delivered in the Southeast. excluding what the Igbos did outside the Southeast. 5 million votes is quite a huge number. And even in the 2019 presidential election, what separated Buhari and Atiku is less than 3 million votes. In 2015 presidential election also between Buhari and Jonathan, what separated the two was less than 3 million votes. So if in 2011, the Southeast could deliver 5 million votes to Jonathan, do you think if they have one of their own running for the president, they will deliver less? They will not. So they are in a position to determine who becomes the next president. So if they are, removed from the picture for all these frivolous excuses people are giving now, we will vote in protest. What that means is that 5 million votes we gave to Jonathan, we will muster it against whichever party that does not believe we have anything to bring to the table. And that's the message I'm sending across. It will happen, and we'll come back to your platform to analyze it.
All right, thank you so much. I can see that Mr. Lumba has his hand up. Mr. Lumba?
I have a question. I just saw a news now that Valo Zibo has indicated in the Rise TV that he may go to court to challenge this election. Are you disappointed, Dr. Mefor?
Hello?
Did you get his question?
Yeah, I got to know whether the question is for me or for my friend.
I said Dr. Mefor. There are no Dr. Mefor.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't get that last part. See, I saw the flash even here on your platform that my friend Valo Zibo said he may be headed to court Soludo. Well, I advise him. The Val I know is an honorable gentleman, and I would to the very end. He has already congratulated Soludo and making a U-turn to head to court. I don't know what new facts have emerged for us to take him, seriously this time around. I listened to the grounds advanced even by the APC governorship candidate, Senator Andy Oba. The grounds he gave, and more detailed in the initial rejection offered by His Excellency Jerry Ugokwe, who spoke on his behalf. The grounds are too frivolous, and they can't stand anywhere, and they know that. Nobody is their right actually to go to court if they want to go to court. But I believe that rather than dissipate energy, waste more funds on frivolities, you have to be a bit more concrete. I think Soludo shouldn't be distracted now. They should all come together and encourage Soludo to settle down, quickly and address the developmental challenges of Anambra State. That is the task confronting us. You see, the election was quite imperfect, yes, but to come to say the election did not comply substantially with the Electoral Act, I don't know how. Well, it's the duty of the court to really tell us how that is. But we are laymen, but not too lay to the point that we don't understand the basic provisions of the law, in this circumstance. All the imperfections affected everybody, all the candidates, all the political parties. The only way any of those claims could make sense is if one can prove that the imperfections were put in place to benefit Soludo and his party alone. And this has not been seen anywhere in all their claims. I also didn't see where Andy Uba said that he won the election. He never said he won. If you didn't win the election and you are challenging it based on imperfections, What is the guarantee that a repeat of the election will now give you any advantage? It makes no sense, because what I expect who is going to court, who is going to the tribunal to say is that I won the election. That was what Hope Uzodinma said in Imo. Hope Uzodinma said, look, these 368 polling units votes were not added, and I won in those places. Add them and see that I won, and Supreme Court added those votes and they won. And here, none of them is saying I won. None of them is saying my votes were discounted. None of them has said that. They all lost in their wards, all of them, you know. And even where the PDP won one local government, you know, it's in Obaru. You know, Val Ozibo lost his local government, and Yoba lost his local government. Even Ifeanyi Uba did better because he won his own local government, and he is not challenging the election in the court. He too has congratulated Soludo. So why this Hulabaloo? Why are they overheating the polity? Why are they, you know, pouring sansan, you know, in our local parlance? I think that is how we say, pouring sansan in a beautiful dish delivered for all of us to enjoy. We shouldn't make this, you know, this outcome appear a kind of Pyrrhic victory, because it is not. You know, it wasn't perfect. You know, there is no perfection. Like my friend said, yeah, my colleague and partnered with me here said, democracy is work in progress. You know, yes, Beavers didn't deliver excellently. That's it. You know, it's a machine, but it affected everybody. And insecurity affected everybody. Voter apathy affected everybody. You know, so it's not as if the apathy made only Soludo supporters to come out and made the Val Ozibo and Andy Uba's supporters not to come out. No, it's across Anambra State. And I expect that men at their level should be more honorable, they should be more patriotic. They should help Anambra and help the Southeast. It's not too much to ask. You know, somebody like Andy Uba has had enough time in the sun. He has had enough opportunity. He has been a governor before. He's been 2-time senator. You know, we have given him enough chance. So, you know, I feel sad about some of these developments. It's not good for the polity at all. It's not helping anybody.
Okay, quickly, Peter. Thank you, Dr. Mefor. Quickly, before I leave, Mr. Onyekwelu, please. Are you concerned that what transpired in Imo State with Hope Uzodinma may also happen in Anambra State this time?
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned at all, because no two elections are the same. No two elections are the same. You know, but then talking about Val Ozibo going to court, you know, if I want to look at it from a very dispassionate viewpoint, well, I think he's within his rights to go to court, same as Senator Anambra. They are within their rights to go to court, and we have to understand that again, from a very dispassionate viewpoint, going to court, all these things, you know, help to strengthen our democracy and our electoral laws and the electoral system itself. So is if they go, because we also need to remember that if His Excellency Peter Obi didn't challenge in court, we wouldn't be here, you know, talking about some of these things, you know, because these are part of the things that help to build the electoral system and our democracy and strengthen our democracy. You know, so I think it's good if you have doubt in the process, you go to court, and then you are cleared. So it doesn't mean going to court doesn't mean there's going to be you know, some magic or someone you know, that didn't win is going to be imposed on the people. No, it means people going to have their doubts cleared. And so I believe if other things being equal and the law prevails, I mean, the right thing will be upheld. And all these things are to the advantage of our system. It helps us to build a more formidable system that works for everybody. So really, I'm not concerned about this in any way. But then again, when we're looking at it from the viewpoint, like the erudite Dr. Mefor was trying to, to say, then I feel that when there is no serious reason to be in doubt of the outcome of any election, then there is actually no need going to court, going through the process of court. That will constitute major distraction to the incoming government. And so when we're looking at it from that point of view, then it stands also to reason that they should be discouraged from going to court. But then if they insist, which we all know is within their rights, we do not have any other option. We cannot stop them.
Okay, I can see that Elder Tango's hand is up. Elder Tango.
I only have a contribution because are you hearing me clear?
Yes,
Very
we can.
well.
Please go ahead.
Good day, everybody. This election have been come and passed and lost and won. Sorozo really won the election because Anambra show quality. They behave, they didn't fall into the trap that was set for them to give room for the people. Now, would I call it enemy or anybody to do their wish? There's a word in this forum, a Lumba forum, that Dr. Mefor said once, and I made good use of it. Dr. Mefor said, if IPOB can use their number, popularity into politics, you will yield good results. I was annoyed with him the day he said it, but later I think of it. That's why I made a video 2 weeks to the election, calling everybody, calling them that if you don't vote, how can you? I hope Lord Mefor may be, because I posted the video in the forum that he is.
I saw it. I saw it. Thank you, my brother.
You said it. So for me, I'm a balanced person that believes in reality. I said, vote, go and vote. If you vote, if you don't vote, how can you say you are linked out? Vote, and with the help of smart news and everything, we did a lot. We work hard. I'm not in Nigeria, but I have a control room in Nigeria that monitors everything that happens everywhere and I send it to the public, no matter who it concerns, which many people saw. We do that, and the election go the way it go, which really Anambra choice, Anambra mind, people's choice was really recognized in that election. So no court will turn that table. Anambra is not Imo. And what brings a good government, unless if Soludo didn't perform, next election, someone else may come in. But going back to Anambra history, at times we say history, you will find somebody. I don't see any moral ground. And Dubai will say he must rule Anambra, going back to our history with him, with what event that happened, really. He lost the election, he go house arrest, try next time. After all, Buhari tried 3 times, whether by counterfeit he came in or not, he tried. Going to court, nobody's afraid going to court. If they go to court, Trump went to court and still lost. Going to court doesn't mean anything they do now will be stupid of them because people have seen everything open. You will expose, because if they really want unity of Nigeria, let them allow this election to be, allow Anambra to be as it is. It will help to build peace, lasting peace in Nigeria election. Coming to IPOB issue, people don't understand the IPOB setup. IPOB wasn't a political party. It's a freedom fighter with one central command. Obey the last order. Now, it's just like a ship. When the captain is in a ship, captain controls the ship. A ship that lost captain, if there's many fractions now in IPOB, up to 5, 10, 6 fractions. Tomorrow you hear different things, but many people are calling themselves to order now. Before, only one person will say, people believe, people hear him and believe him. That's why it's good. That's why the parent in the sea always set the captain free. So what I see in Anambra have shown a great thing. Yeah, well, I do keep records because when I was 2 weeks to that election, I remember Dr. Ucheme's first word that if IPOP can go into a political party that they will go miles. So I started doing underground work, calling people. Everybody had, not only me, I'm not taking the credit, but at last I made a video that provoked even my IPOP member. Why did I do that video? Are you a saboteur? And I said, I'm not a saboteur, but see, the war is in our house. Our people are dying. These people, because if you made a law, your enemy will go into your law and use that law as the way you want. See, those killings may not even be IPOB, not IPOP. But I have worked in security report. I work in investigation bureau. My last bus stop in service was SIP Araka, which just like DSS now. So I have worked in many places in Nigeria. I know that those laws you make may be used not the way you want it. And most of this is you see in the crime. Even at times, if you say can organize crime, why can't you DSS organize crime?
All right, thank you, sir.
Listen to me. Listen to me, I'm coming. I know you won't like it, but if you call your phone or I stop coming here. Let me say what I said stand for me, not for you. Don't rush me when I want to say my mind in a forum. Then I stop coming. What I said, if they say who said this, Tango says so. The problem we have that we know what is the problem we have, and we need a better country that we call a home. A home. We need a better country to call our home. So the election has come and gone. Nothing will change the election in short period.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elder Ugochukwu. I was not trying to cut you. I was just trying to remind you that we are on a time limit and we cannot exceed that time limit. Dr. Mefor, do you want to react to what he has been saying? Or should I go to the next one? Okay, please go ahead.
I want to just say a word. I don't want to belabor it. He has made all the points. And I am happy for that video he made because he has always been my position. I said, look, you cannot, even Onyekwelu here is saying the same thing. Now, look, you can't solve a political problem without participating politically. It's very simple. We need to invade Nigerian politics, dominate it, pick one party, like this ABGA. ABGA has Igbo preponderance. IPOB can adopt ABGA. Nnamdi Kanu was one time the chairman of ABGA in UK. IPOB can adopt ABGA. Face ABGA, use ABGA as a political party and take over the Southeast. It's very simple. Take over the Southeast, then you will be within the political cycle to affect political change. You cannot affect political change from outside unless you want a coup, unless you want outright war. And you and I know that we are not in a position to organize any coup. We're not in a position to win any war. It's just this politics and the legalism that are open to us. So why are we shying away from it? We just want to remain outside shouting and nobody's listening. Look, let me say this. Unless we take the political control of the Southeast, nothing will change. The suffering will continue. And the international community will not be able to listen to us because they want to deal with constituted authorities. If somebody like Anambra Kanu is a senator now, it would have been a different ball game. Look, imagine what, if Anambra Kanu were somebody like Abaribe as the Senate minority leader. It's going to be a different ball game. We must get our people to see this point of view. Without participating politically, nobody will listen to us in the international community. What they will be offering us with the palliatives, ask Nigeria government, listen to them, do this. That is not what we are looking for. We are looking for either of these two things. For emphasis, I have often said it. We are looking for restoration of federalism in Nigeria, what we may call restructuring, so that the Igbos will have a political space to organize themselves. We don't want anybody to spoon feed us, but we don't have the economic environment to develop the Southeast. We don't have the political space to, run our affairs. That's what we're looking for. And the other thing we are looking for where this first option fails is sovereign state of Biafra. It's very simple. It's either you restructure Nigeria to accommodate everybody, or we shake hands and part. That is where I stand.
All
and
right,
that is
thank
what
you.
I believe. That's what I believe. Biafra agitation, Ududwa agitation, all these agitations, I believe that this is the same thing they are all pursuing now.
Thank you so much. Let us listen to the next participant. I can see Hygienus Anedo's hand up.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our two guests. That's Dr. Mefor and Mazi Onyekwelu. In fact, this has been a very educative one. And somebody like me, I've learned a lot. But please, I don't know whether I will combine questions or comments. In what I summarize here, having listened to everybody, including my brother Edatango, in what I call 3 I's. And these I's are based on ideology, based on the submission of especially Mazi Onyekwelu. The first I is ideology of Igbo man right now. Does that make IPOB a credible organization? Because I believe that if you can do a survey post Anambra election on credibility or acceptance of Igbo people, especially Anambrans, as a case study of IPOB and its ideology or her ideology, one maybe Mazi Onyekwelu will be surprised to understand that for as far as Southeastern Nigeria is concerned, IPOB is a credible organization because most people, about 70%, that's why I said if you can do a quick survey, you will be surprised that 70% of average Igbo man in the Southeast or even outside Southeast believe in what IPOB believes in. Maybe their approach, as he said, strategy may be different. If IPOB isn't a credible organization, I don't think that Igbo elders, the traditional rulers, and the Conference of Bishops will go and beg or ask them to step down their threat. That's number one. The second ideology, I said, in terms of what an Anambrian voter now has in mind, there is this ideology of Nkabunkani, meaning ABGA remains Igbo man party until proven otherwise, especially Anambrians. Right from the inception of ABGA, Anambrians have been consistent in voting the party. Unfortunately, I'm not a member or a fan of ABGA ideology or politics because I don't belong to the same political organization with people in ABGA. But being on ground on the day of election, I could see the high acceptance of ABGA above all the 2 other major political parties. That speaks to Igbo man ideology as per his belief in a electoral system in Nigeria and what he or she could achieve by adopting ABGA as a Nkabunkani party. The third I is, we said we have passed Electoral Act now signed into law. From the amendments, does Nigerian democracy has that basic ideology of making an election credible, fair, and acceptable with evidence, that standard evidence worldwide, where we practice true democracy and federalism? The answer is that our concept of democracy in Nigeria has not fallen into that ideology of election being credible, acceptable, and fair, seem to be fair. Now, why do I say so? On the day of this present election, people were being recruited on the spot. Potential voters are being recruited on the spot to serve as ad hoc member of what they call it, INEC. Now, you could see that most INEC officials that day, greater in number, unlike before, were all INEC staff. So if Nigeria has believed in the ideology of fairness in an election, what stops Nigeria giving the INEC power and the funding to employ people, even if they're ad hoc, they are being paid basic minimum but they will be going on training and retraining on the process, which is already in place based on the Electoral Act, right? And the conduct of election. What can Nigeria afford to bring our development? Nigeria can afford it. Many other countries, both financially and technically. So now we brought a device called BVAX that we know, as my brother said, in Anambra State, I don't think there are more than 7 cities or towns in Anambra State that have 4G network. Now, what was the preparation of INEC to mitigate areas where there are not even network at all? Then I have not seen a device electronically that you must smile before it captures you. So that goes to deal with our own belief in the ideology in which we want to practice democracy. And ideally, that's why it's called ideology. It's supposed to be something that's acceptable globally in terms of definition of democracy. So my submission here, these are like what I even gained from discussion that went through this meeting, my learning too. So it is, I thought Elumba TV would have said, let's make these issues and recommendations. Because if we are in the way of recommendation, number one recommendation is that there must be what I could term targeted or strategic funding of INEC to ensure that we come up with an election that will be credible, fair, and acceptable. That's number one. Then the second one on Igbo ideology is to recommend if Igbo leaders will step up their engagement with IPOB. So we are meant to believe that it was the engagement that made them to play down sit-at-home, which I can tell you that if not for the retraction of that sit-at-home, we are talking about maybe lower than 10%, it would have been less than 1%. Because even those that believe in party, they were afraid to come out. I was in my own polling unit, I was the only person that was allowed to come within the radius of that polling center with a vehicle, because already I was working for a political party. And once they see a vehicle coming, everybody, including the adult committee member, adult staff of INEC, will run away. So thank God for that BVAX. That goes to recommendation that they should increase interest in making our elections electronically, right? But with belief that we must make it work just like near, where there is near, I won't say perfection, but credible and fair election conducted across the globe. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Hygienist Anedo. Let us listen to our guest respond to that before we conclude today's program. Mr. Onyekwelu.
Oh yes. Now, thank you, Hygienist, for your contributions. Then I want to start my response in this way. You mentioned the ideology as the question of IPOB's credibility, of which I think you misconstrued my earlier position. I said that IPOB's credibility is not in question, because if you say that the credibility of INEC, IPOB, calls to question on the basis of how they reevaluated their earlier stance and changed within themselves. There is nothing wrong in a group reconsidering its strategic positions and taking another route. That before then they were opposed to. It's part of the growth process that we've been talking about here. So the issue of credibility as far as IPOB is concerned within the context of the just concluded governorship election in Anambra State, it's not in doubt. So that is not an impediment. It doesn't cast any doubt on the credibility of any organization. Rather, it gives human face to the organization. So in other words, it energizes its relevance to the people. Because if you make a law, even in a family setting, you make a law there is a rule within the family setting. And as the head of the family, you look at the rule, and you consider the opinions of members of the family, and you reconsider the rule. I mean, that is part of the growth process. Of course, part of the process to achieve harmony within the family group, as as I've given as an example. All right, so the other one you talked about, the Nkanya ideology, that's Abra. Well, it would be good, but I think, because when we are discussing this within democracy as a system of or as a system really of government, we have to put into consideration that democracy permits people to choose to decide the political party they belong to and the people they support for any public office. But then I understand that IPOB can actually adopt a political party or float, but now maybe they cannot float because of the difficulties they would now have with floating a political party, or except the ban on the group is lifted. So now from beginning, this is part of what many of us have said, that IPOB should have taken the advantage of this long time ago before now. But then that is not the final judgment on the group, because there are still many more opportunities. You can actually adopt ABGA or adopt any other political party as its own political party. So so I think you made a good point on your submission on that. Then on credible election depends on a number of factors, and of which one of the ways to ensure credibility of any election is participation. The number of people that participate. In fact, when we are talking about rigging, you are able to rig the election within the polling unit and the ward because there are people who didn't come out to vote. For instance, if in polling unit A there are 500 registered voters, and if maybe in that polling unit A you have what they call now voting VP, that's voting point. In the other voting point, maybe you have maybe 100 voters there. In that unit, you cannot have more than 500 ballot papers for polling unit A, and for VP, you cannot have more than 200 ballot papers. So where you have these ballot papers extra, or you have the extra where people can use to to cheat and to rig the election, is when people don't come out to vote. And you have to understand that you cannot rig an election where the choice of voters is clear. You cannot rig the election because it is ripe for violence, and nobody wants to have that kind of a situation in hand. So these are these are realities, that people put into consideration. But for most of the populace, they do not have an understanding of how really the system works. Which initially I said INEC and even political parties and every other stakeholders should do better, should do more to encourage our people to gain political knowledge and to actively participate in our election and electoral processes, and also even in our democracy, engage leaders. Most people in Nigeria don't know how to engage our leaders. You see, most people actually think you call your rep and make demands for money. You make demands for just things, personal needs. But that's not how to hold people accountable for being in public office. And so these are part of the things that we need to learn. But in all, it's a process that we're already going, and I believe.
Thank you so much.
Eventually, we'll get to the point where we'll be able to.
All right, thank you. I can see Elder Ogochukwu's hand is still up. Elder Ogochukwu. Elder Ogochukwu, you'll be our last participant for the night. We have already exceeded our time. So please keep your submission as short as possible. I can hear you. Please go ahead.
I'm giving a support for what our Oyekwe said no. People participate fully, no matter the number. There's a video showing people counting along with the INEC. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's very interesting. How can somebody ring or manipulate that kind of situation when they are counting the vote and people are counting along with them? So, Anambra show class, I maintain it. And the election was peaceful, marvelous, and it's good. So we must keep it up. That's my take.
Thank you so much. Let us hear any last words from Dr. Mefor before we round up today's program.
Yeah, my last comment is this. I want to reiterate my position on political participation. The new Electoral Act, the amended Electoral Act, has now handed power back to Nigerians. I'll tell you why. You see, the amended Electoral Act has now inserted into it direct party primaries. It means that registered party members will now determine who will fly their flag. That's the law now. That's number one. Then, number two, the electronic transfer of votes and collation of results is also a revolutionary clause inserted into the electoral process. What does that mean? It means that those who go to collation center to manipulate results have been cut off from that. It means, like Elder Ugochukwu was saying, you know, people counting along with the INEC officials, 1, 2, 3, is the same thing. As whatever is recorded there is what will be transmitted to the central server. And the political party agents are also available there at the central server as they are at the polling units. What is emanating from the polling units is what will be recording at the central server. What this means is that there will be no avenue for anybody to write results. That was what happened in Anambra. So people who were hoping to write results were disappointed. You know, and that is why I told you that I read the grounds, you know, of APC. I've not seen that of Alozibo. I had expected for Anduba to say, I won. He didn't say that. He said there are irregularities. What that means is that he is pleading with the tribunal to cancel the election. That's it. He's not asking the tribunal to declare him as the winner. You can understand that is an exercise in futility. It's frivolous. So my last line is that IPOB, all the agitators, both Oduduwa, all of them should invade the electoral process and make their own leaders their political leaders. There is nothing that says that people who have a bias for what they are doing cannot now become senators, governors, House of Reps members, and all that. And that way, take their own destiny into their own hands and be able to bring about the kind of governance that they want. Do you know why this agitation is rife? It is rife because of bad governance. If it is as a result of bad governance that you have Biafra agitation or Oduduwa agitation, why don't you take over governance itself and govern the place the way you want? It's very simple. This is where I leave my intervention for the night. Thank you once more for hosting us.
Thank you so much. Let us hear from our second guest, Mr. Onyekwelu.
Well, since we narrowed it down to Anambra election of 2021, my last take would be that I expect to see INEC improve on some of these, errors, some of these difficulties that we discussed this night, and also I look forward to, see Nigerians become much more conscious and show the consciousness, show a higher level of consciousness of understanding of how the system works. And of course, I also expect to see other stakeholders within the electoral system, the democratic system, work together to have a much more sustainable system, and also expect to see the people, exerting or showing a lot of faith, in the ability of the system, to produce leaders that can, be able to transform their dreams, their aspirations to reality. And how would they do this? They cannot do this without being part of the process. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And that's as much as we can take on today's interview. We have been discussing Anambra 2021, issues raised by the Anambra 2021 governorship elections. Special thanks to our guest, the convener of the socio-cultural organization, Ibo. Dr. Mefor, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us. Thank you. Thank you.
And we also had a columnist with the West African Pilot News, a creative writer and a good governance advocate, master's, and he also has a master's degree in political science, Mr. Ebuka Onyekwelu. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
A special thanks to our participants, the ones that asked questions and also made their contributions and their comments. And for me, Augusta Nneka, it's good night. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.